right. Thank you guys so much for joining us for Meet Music Knoxville. My name is Nick Horner. I am your host, and we are so excited to be going remote today from WATE in North Knox. We are excited to have Richie Owens here as our guest. Before we dive into conversation, we have to say some very special thank yous to Raven Records and Rarities and Hutch and Howard of Keller Williams. We could not do this without you. Thank you all so much for supporting real Knoxville music. All right. Bracing myself for this conversation. I just watched Richie and Bob play tunes on WATE. Beautiful stuff. Really old time storytelling rooted songwriting. I had the opportunity to check them out on YouTube today. Really some bold, beautiful electric guitar stuff riddled in with a lot of old timey stuff. I was impressed. I was taken back, and now I get to chat with him here today. Richie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Man, so you live in Nashville now, but you're from Knoxville.
I live in Nashville now, but I am from Knoxville, and I'm for whatever the reason I bounce back and forth. I moved back there because I ended up getting work. I went out and was touring with Dolly Parton and her backup band, so I moved back in around 2003 is when I moved back to Nashville the last time, but before that I was living here again. I just moved from California. We came straight here, me and my wife and our kids, and we lived here, and I had a music store, and I was performing and working out of here because my family's all from here. I mean, all my family lives here pretty much still, and so it made sense for me to come back here. My parents were getting older, and I wanted to help them as well. But when I got this opportunity, and it was a good financial opportunity for me, we made the move back there, and I've been there ever since. But I'm here almost right now. I've been in the past 3 months. I've been here every 2 weeks, spending a week here.
He's bringing you back.
So I've slowly been being pulled back in again. But yeah, I'm from here. I was born here. Born right here in Knoxville.
Yeah. Where in California were you?
The last time I was living up in the Santa Clara area, right below San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
it's right out. It's like a little suburb area of San Jose. You're right there. Santa Clara is just like over the hill from Santa Cruz.
Yeah, man, gorgeous area.
Yeah, I was up there doing music, but I also had my own guitar company. So people bought into much of my designs, so I moved out there.
Oh, so the guitar you played today, is that one of your
That's
guitars?
One of my guitars, yeah.
Man, beautiful guitar.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So that went well for a while until, of course, the .com industry and everything blew up out there, and that was our financiers for the company. So it all kind of went belly up. So instead of loading up the truck, moving to Beverly, I loaded back up the truck and moved back to Tennessee. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. So, well, I have to ask then, have you been a luthier your whole life, or are these just your design?
I grew up, when I was a kid, when I was living in Nashville as a kid, I got very interested in the guitar. They call it a resonator guitar is what the real term is, but everybody calls them a dobro or a national guitar because the metal body, they were made of metal body, and they had this pie plate looking cover on the top of it that had a cone in the guitars, pre-electrics, but it caused them to amplify and give them a certain sound. Of course, people in country music before the steel guitar and people in blues picked these instruments up because you could be able to hear them when you were playing with drums and other instruments, and even banjos. Even before bluegrass, the ragtime stuff, and you had to be heard, so they were using those instruments for the slide. It was the beginning of the Hawaiian music craze and everything. So I was very interested in them, and my friend of my dad was one of the guys that owned and had created the company called Showbud Steel Guitars, which is the most famous name of steel guitars that were built. And needless to say, my dad took me down there because I showed him that I wanted to play the dobro and stuff. He said, well, I'll give him one, but he's going to have to work here during the summer and learn how to build them. If he wants to know how to want to play one of these and do it, he needs to know everything about them. So I got a job working in his store up in the shop, learning how to build them when I was 16 years old. And I kind of started tinkering and dealing with this throughout the years for friends that played and would work on their guitars and stuff for them, which eventually came to me. I was out performing and stuff, and of course that guitar, and I went to a trade show, and Gibson had just bought the brand dobro, and they didn't have anybody there that knew anything about the guitars or how to work on them or how to, anything. So they offered me a job to go out and demonstrate and perform on the instruments and help them with design and everything. And I did that for quite a few years, doing that, and I got to travel all over the world playing music and everything. It was wonderful. A friend of mine, just like my friend Bob here, we both went out, and he was from here too. We had worked at Dollywood together, played in the park music there a couple of times back in the 80s. So he went out and got a job for Gibson mandolins, and they would send us out performing together.
Wow.
So that's how that kind of happened.
Incredible.
And that's what got me into, eventually when I left there, people wanted me to do my own line of guitars.
Yeah. So the first thing, and I don't want to forget to ask this question because it seems obvious. Do you think was there any way that early connection to the resonator guitar thing, like do you think that affected your approach to playing music or writing music in any certain way?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. What it did, because I'm like, any kid that was growing up when I was all into all kinds of music. I wasn't, I didn't grow up in bluegrass music. I listened to bluegrass music. My dad played bluegrass music, and a lot of people in my family played that kind of music, so I was familiar with it and liked it. But I was listening to the Beatles. I was listening to Yes or Neil Young or anything everybody else was listening to in the era that I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s as a kid. On into 80s, I played in alternative rock bands and stuff. I was playing here in Knoxville all the time, from the late 70s and the 80s on when the whole alternative rock scene was going on. But always there to the side, I was listening to guys that played slide guitar, so it didn't matter whether it was Bashful Brother Oswald playing with Roy Acuff, and this is pre-Jerry Douglas becoming who he was and everything, okay, because we were kind of close to the same age. So I was listening to those old school cats, which made me love old-timey music.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, the guys that were playing round neck slide guitar and finger picking guitar, like Mississippi Fred McDowell or Son House, and those kind of players that were playing the guitars, which was blues, gave me this whole other listening thing. So I really feel strongly that all that stuff was influencing me. And then you had the era of, which of course now is called Americana, but back in the 70s, you have the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, which were a bunch of hippie guys from California trying to do country music at the time. And that kind of stuff was starting to happen with Graham Parsons and them, and a few other people. Neil Young was dabbling in it and stuff too. I mean, you hear the steel guitar on Teach Your Children Well, and it's Jerry Garcia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right, Riders of the Purple Sage, all that was the era of those people. Panama Red, all that was they're trying to mix that, blend that stuff. And so they came to Nashville and they recorded with Doc Watson, Norman Blake, Earl Scruggs, had Junior Husky playing bass, who by the way was from Knoxville. Worked at the Kaz Walker store when he was a young man, before he went to Nashville. So you had all Jimmy Martin. I can keep going down to Maybelle Carter's all on this record. And you got Norman Blake playing the dobro on it. Not even playing guitar, but he's playing the dobro on the record. And Bashful Brother Oswald. So here you have this mixture and blend already starting to happen. And it appealed to me because I went, okay, it's okay to like a Neil Young and the Beatles and people like that, those kind of artists, and then turn right around and listen to Roy Acuff, or Jimmy Martin or any of that music. So it really opened me up. The Dobro definitely was a crossroads for me to be able to enjoy liking a lot more diversity in music.
Wow.
I think that's for a long-winded version. There you go.
Well, no, and that's actually really wonderful to hear, because it was funny checking out, your videos on YouTube today, and getting that sense of breadth within sort of, obviously here today I saw, guitar, mandolin, harmonica, stomp box, but there's a lot of electric guitars. It seems like there's a lot of different elements that are in play in your music, and that makes sense that would be the rooting of
I
that.
just like diversity,
Yeah.
and I don't see, I hate that I keep going back to the Beatles, but I'm not just talking about the Beatles. I'm talking about post-Beatles, all of them. If you listen to a lot of their records, they're doing stuff that sounds country. They got dobros on it, slide guitars. George Harrison is a good example of all the slide stuff that he does. But whether it's McCartney or Ringo or John Lennon, Crippled Inside is a country song.
Yeah.
If you listen to that off the Imagine record and everything, they were enjoying those elements even after the fact. Paul McCartney came to Nashville and he writes this song. It's called Sally G. It's a wonderful song, and it's about being in Nashville and hanging out in Printer's Alley. The song is, and it's steel guitar through the whole song. It's his thing. The Stones, whether it's blues or into the country music and everything. Again, I think that diversity thing is great. Another good example, more modern example, would be a Tom Waits. Mm-hmm. No matter what you hear from him, he's all over the map. It might be German polka music to a beautiful ballad.
Yeah, and coexisting on a record too.
That is correct.
And
yeah.
that's
we lose a lot of that here in America more than anything. If it wasn't for stations like your station, and there's certain stations like that in Nashville, what I call more underground vibe stations that allow that diversity, I think that we'd be in a much more boring world.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that.
You allow exploration with your station.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think for Real Knoxville Music, we're really about whatever's happening here.
Right.
And that's the reality. It's like,
and that's fantastic as well.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
No, it's very good.
Yeah. So, let's sidestep a little bit, and let me talk about like your songwriting process. Seems very story-oriented songs. Where does that process start for you? Is it lyrics first, chords first? Are you thinking about ideas? What's that process of coming up with songs?
Honestly, they're really, I know this is going to sound very trying to get out of the answer, but there's really no process, because it's always different. It's just whatever's inspiring me at the moment. Matter of fact, we were in here this morning warming up for the recording of the TV show that we were doing, and we set everything up, and we're sitting over in our little spot there. We bring our own little chairs, our little floor rug, and our stomp box, and I'm sitting there just because they said let's hear some instruments so we can get the mics all set up and everything. And next thing you know, me and him is just sitting there. We've come up with this little tune. I'm just humming into the microphone this little mountainy sounding thing that we're doing, and that say because of the environment we're in here, that just came out. Now sometimes it could be just driving down the road or watching television and someone say some little silly line and I go, oh, that's a great idea for a song, and then I'll scribble it down, or some kind of little melody will come to me. But I don't do it this some structured way. It's just whatever the inspiration is at the moment. It's the moment.
Yeah.
If you want to have a solid answer, that's it. It's the moment.
Yeah.
what is that moment? Where am I going to be out in my car? Or am I going to be in here doodling?
Yeah.
Before this is all going on, and this is all because this old building. I mean, it's inspiring to be in here. You can feel the magic in this building.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I was telling him, the first time I've been in this building, it was in 1966. I used to come in here as a kid, and I got to be on a TV show. That was a morning kids show on Saturday mornings. It was the Popeye show.
Huh.
Really?
And so I obviously, but as the name connotes, as the name. Whatever. As the name of the show would suggest, I'm new to Knoxville. So this has been a this has been a TV station since the 60s?
Oh, gosh, before that.
Wow.
But I came in here, and just like this building is now, when I first saw it, I remember it like it was yesterday. Because I never forget this building, because it's one of those buildings, once you've seen it, it sticks with you. But we would come here, and my dad would do, and I'm not sure, we were talking about this earlier, I would have, you guys would have to check your records. I don't know if it was the Kaz Walker show or the Bonnie Lou and Buster show or the Jim Clayton Mobile Home show, but they used to shoot some of those Saturday and Sunday morning or afternoon shows that were taped. Some of them were taped here. I'm not sure which ones, but my dad would come down here a lot, and we would he would perform here because he was a country singer and performed on these shows as a local artist.
Man, fascinating. Now, actually, that segues into something else that I wanted to ask you about, because you had mentioned briefly before about, that you're doing a lot of archival work, and you're currently working on a record that is, a family record.
Right.
Talk to me about that process.
Well, I've been doing, for the past 5 years, I was also an archivist, historian, and wrote articles on vintage guitars for Premier Guitar Magazine. I just wrapped that up just because I needed to come up for air. But also, too, my show was the Old Time Pickup Parlor, and I would tell Nashville history as well. But as well, for the past 4 years, I've been working with my family now, and part of my family is Dolly Parton. And what I've been doing is going back, not just the ancestry part, as far as family ancestry, but also the ancestry and history of all the music that my family's recorded, all the way since back into the 30s.
Wow.
That we have that's recorded music.
Really?
And we're taking all that, and I've been transferring it digitally and working at saving the stuff.
Yeah.
Transfer it and then using software to enhance it, clean it up, because a lot of the tapes are old, muddy sounding. So we're going in and clearing all that up and doing same thing with old records that we have, because that's all that's left.
Yeah.
And, cleaning up, getting rid of the crackles, the hum, and trying to bring them up to, current qualities. We're using software that the film industry uses that they do for film restoration. So the stuff we're using is at the top of the food chain to do this. This is the same software that the Country Music Hall of Fame uses. I'm down there a lot, down there with their archivist sometimes, talking to him over certain things and going through stuff that they have that I don't have. I got stuff of our family as well, and I'm hoping to hook up with some people here as we continue to go forward, because we're also doing a backstory on my grandfather's fiddle, which was passed down to him from his great-grandfather. His name was George Grooms, and the song became called the Grooms Tune. And the story is told in the movie Cold Mountain. If someone's seen the movie Cold Mountain or read the book, there's the musicians there in the movie. Of course, he took liberties and turned it into a little bit something else. But that was actually my great-great-grandfather. That was the fiddle player in that, and the other two guys, they were actually brothers. There's all these arguments, but I've actually went back and actually got this document. I got all the paperwork from over in North Carolina, because this all happened over in Haywood County, which is just right over from Sevier County where all this took place. And I know who the actual people are because it's all written. I got the court records on all these people getting killed and everything.
Yeah.
And anyway, that fiddle, there was 2 of them, and one of the guys got away because he was not there at the time. For whatever the reason, the movie they showed him getting sick from food poisoning. And that story's been twisted. He went to the woods to go to the bathroom, came back, and they caught the guys. He got away. But the 2 fiddles, because he had one of them tuned in what they call a dead man's tuning, they had him play a song. And what it is, the song is the song called Bonaparte's Retreat. But they slow it way down, and they do it because the fiddle is tuned into a drone tuning.
Right.
It's like an AADA.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just this droning. And they just play that melody on that one string is what they do. And, of course, it upset them even more, and they killed them. In the movie, they shows them that they got shot, but they hung them, actually, is what happened.
Yeah.
But needless to say, that fiddle got passed down to my grandfather. So we have that fiddle. So we're filming, working on a documentary, filming the history of all this and going all the way back with that song. You know, here these guys been playing this song in the mountains for years.
Yeah.
They call it the Groom's Tune here, but it was Bonaparte's Retreat.
Yeah.
So it really came from overseas, and even before Bonaparte's Retreat, it was actually called something else. There was a Welsh name for it, I think, called Dim Sum, means no circle. It means everything's open to everybody.
Yeah.
So we're actually documenting and going over there. We have archivists over there helping us with this history of this fiddle. So we're filming the restoration of the fiddle because we got it back because it's been in the museum up at Dollywood. So now we've got that fiddle back, and we're going to be restoring it, and we're going to film that, and we're actually going to play that song and record that song on that fiddle.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because
that's
think
so
about
cool.
it, the song that actually this story was all about going back and playing it on that fiddle.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're doing the same thing with all my relatives, including my grandfather playing that fiddle.
Yeah.
We have recordings of him playing that fiddle. He don't play that song,
Uh-huh.
but we have him playing that fiddle as well.
Yeah.
And his daughter's playing old clawhammer banjo with him and singing, you know, just some of the stuff we got, because there's a lot of them are deceased now. You know, my family's older, you know, on the younger side of my family, so it's an older family. And now there's a lot of young ones too as well. So we just decided, you know what, before somebody else passes away and we go, boy, I wish we had got some more recordings of this person or got their stuff and preserved it before it's too late. Same thing with photos, everything. We're putting all this together to create something for our family. And if something gets released from it, that would be great. You know, it's being talked about. But right now, the most important thing is this is being done to preserve our family's musical history.
Amazing. After this radio show, I'd love to chat with you more about that. Just because of some archival work I'm doing with the Floyd Country Store up in Floyd, Virginia right now.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, because it just seems some fascinating.
Yeah, I got to get more. Speaking of that, I got to get more history from a couple of your guys here too. I think Wayne is.
Yeah.
You guys. Yeah, he's a go-to here in Knoxville with all that stuff.
What a resource, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, he's a walking encyclopedia of it.
Oh,
so he fills in the gaps because, you know, part of that family history is the Pines Theater in Sevierville, and then you got the Midday Merry-Go-Round that was here, as well as the Kaz Walker Show and these other shows we were talking about, which I would love to have shows like that of my dad's performances. But as you know, and a lot of this stuff here, it's not just about live, so therefore it's not all the ways being recorded. At the moment, it's the same thing when they were filming a lot of those shows, like the Kaz Walker Show. There's a few here and there. You can catch them on YouTube and things like that. But most of them got either recorded over or the tape got dumped.
Yeah.
And so they're not there, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Sorry, my brain was already jumping on to other things I wanted to ask you about. Let me ask again, this is a sidestep, because you were talking a little bit about sort of your experience in bands here in the 1980s
Mm-hmm.
in Knoxville. And I'm curious about, what was that like? Because you had mentioned that it was sort of just a fertile ground. You compared it to Athens, just in terms of like a lot of great energy and a lot of clubs.
Yes,
and,
it was of course the station here was the college station, just like it was in Nashville. Nashville had WRVU, you had UTK here, then you got the one you had in Athens, Georgia,
Mhm.
and then you had Chapel Hill in North Carolina. So it became this little, and then of course Atlanta was a little hot spot in the middle of all this, okay? So there became this little circuit. You go, whether you were a band from Chapel Hill or Knoxville or Athens or Nashville, you would hit all those other towns and we'd piggyback off of each other.
Yeah.
All these different bands. We'd end up playing shows because you'd want a local band to play with you from another band to get people to know who you are, and they had this little circuit, and it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was an exciting, very exciting time. Most of the venues at that time were all kind of around the what do you call it, the Cumberland Strip, down there. That area there is where it was back to where we were talking about Raven Records. All that whole area there was it was happening. It was great, and even back then it wasn't. You could get gigs playing frat parties, and they wanted to hear original bands. It wasn't coming in and being a cover band.
Right.
Playing the frat party, you actually went there and they we saw you at this club, so we wanted you to play our frat party, So it was good, bands, and of course no one had any money. We'd all pile in a van, and you either slept in the van overnight so you could drive the next day, or somebody local. I can tell you a number of times of people the bartender or the guy that owned the club, after we played, we stayed at his house.
Yeah.
Because that was just how you did it.
Yeah. Well, and I can't help but think about this idea of, and, I toured for about maybe 6 to 7 months of a year for maybe 3 years recently, we'll just say before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's the community element of that
Yeah.
and the friendships that you build. It's a sort of like glue that draws this thing together. I'm curious, like, of your assessment, what are the things that we as musicians can be doing to sort of promote that experience, or do you have any thoughts on that? Is there a way forward with this stuff?
That's a tough question. I think the jury is out right now, because I don't honestly believe that this is on the bands not doing their job as far as getting out there, promoting what they're doing, trying to get stuff out there, trying to get on the radio, trying to do interviews, television. I think everybody's doing it. I kind of feel like a lot of this is based upon the venues and the areas that are doing this, and what are they going to do to support more live music that's original music. And the sad part of that is because cities, because of the explosions of urban development where people they're moving away from the suburbs and want to move back into cities again. So they we got all this infrastructure, so we're going to have to raise the taxes. How do we raise the taxes? Let's raise the taxes on restaurants, entertainment, which means bars as well. Okay, because you're not going to have a liquor license in Tennessee unless you're serving food.
Yeah.
Okay. So how are we going to do this? And so, where are they going to cut corners? Okay. If they're taxing live music, what is the club going to do? Yeah. They're going to go to canned music. It'd be easier to put a karaoke spot in there, or put 20 more TVs in there and make it a sports bar.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately what's going on. So really, in a way, it's really kind of on the bars, restaurants / restaurant venues, whatever term you want to use, and also, does that city's interest, because of what they want to be known for, is that city's interest politically as far as serving the needs of the people, want to be known for people being able to go out and enjoy themselves listening to live music or not. And Knoxville has always been one of those places as long as it's been allowed. People here have always come out to see live music. It's just a question of, can the bars or venues afford to be able to have live music in order to do this? You know, it's because of the expense of it, you know, because a band can't come out and go out on the road and play a place that they're not getting hardly any type of guarantee until they're building an audience. What is that bar doing? And said, okay, we're all about you coming in here. This is a thing in Nashville, for example. I'm going to give you an example of a venue there. This is good. It's very well known. It's called the Five Spot. And, okay, in order for an outside of Nashville band to play the Five Spot, they want you to play it and you just set it up and book yourself playing that place with a local act, because they're they're conscientious of this. They put it in their thing for their bookings and stuff. They make it very clear that you have to go through these protocols to do it. They're not trying to make it difficult for you to book there. They're trying to make sure you don't leave there and go, man, that sucked. We didn't make any money, or this.
Yeah. No,
that's not how it is at all. You know, look, we're limited to what we can do here, and we're going to do these things, but it's going to be on you as well to do these things, which you should be doing anyway.
Right, exactly.
Okay? How do you expect to go into a town and play, and if they haven't heard from you, if there's not proper promotion by the venue, and also too that place going, hey, we like this band, we know we want to keep bringing this band back in the town, so we need to find one of our better local bands to play the gig with them. Okay, to get the thing going. Okay, that's what they all used to do. Back in the 80s, everybody was really worked hard at piggybacking with each other, with the other local bands.
Yeah.
And, you know, there could be a circuit here for people. I mean, all the places we just talked about, they all still exist. Going to places and venues in those towns. There's less of them.
Yeah.
Because less original music is being allowed out there. And, of course, the pandemic didn't help the situation either. Yeah. And it's getting tougher for people to want to go out even after that. Yeah. And now, right now, go and buy gas and be in a band and traveling.
Yeah.
In a van that gets 10 miles to the gallon.
You know, and it's funny because it's like here in Knoxville, there is paying work, you know, and it's very easy to sort of like stay contained in this sort of cycle of, 20 miles outside of town and then just make it so half your set is covers and, you really are playing to the crowds. But there's really something to be said for exactly what you just said, going out and, connecting in other cities and creating this community, creating this spirit of, we're going to do this thing together.
Yeah.
And I have to ask yet another sidestep. I feel like I'm just all over the place with my questions today. Man, favorite spots to play here in Knoxville, or favorite spots like currently or historically?
Well, one place we've always enjoyed is the Preservation Pub. We've always liked it. It's a smaller footprint place, but it's just I love the vibe, especially when we're doing more of our acoustic instrumentation. It's a great size stage, and it's a great vibe. And I just love that whole Market Square area there.
Oh yeah,
it's really nice.
Yeah,
and so I would say that.
Oh, great. I'm actually playing there for the first time in 2 days. Well, yeah. So that's great. I love hearing that. Now, what about touring? Where were some of your favorite spots to go when you've been on the road? Are there any like memorable? Obviously it's like you've done a lot of touring, so you've been a lot of places. But do you have any favorites that like come to mind?
No, not really. I I will say I have good memories of getting to play with California, which I'm glad I got to play these places because they were infamous.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting to play the Palomino Club,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting to play the Troubadour
Yeah.
in Hollywood. Well, it's with West Hollywood, I would call it, down in that area. It's off Santa Monica, but the famous Troubadour Club, just because of all the people that's played there.
Yeah.
And I played up in Northern California at the Sweetwater, got to play there, and I love that because you got everything from, the whole David Grisman, Jerry Garcia, Tony Rice, Vassar Clements lineup, Olden in the Way kind of thing, playing the Sweetwater, to the guys in the Grateful Dead playing there, to Taj Mahal, guys like that, playing that place. So places out there have been fun and unique. They have a tendency to have a lot more unique vibe. They create a personality around the venues more so than they do here. Most things here are usually big concrete halls, because they're just bringing you in and bringing you out. That's why I do like the Preservation Pub, because pub's got a vibe. It's got a really neat bar there. The stage is kind of neat the way it's set up, and there's sitting areas and stuff like that. So there's a personality there. So I definitely like places that have personality.
Yeah. Yeah. What about I have to think about, there are just a couple cities for me, like when I was on the road, like just being really blown away, like a place I never expected to have like a good like performance experience. Did any of those sleeper towns or sleeper venues that you just that come to mind?
Well,
It's okay if not.
No. I tell you, I will say this though. I mean, as far as a smaller town, I've enjoyed playing in Asheville. There's a place there. Now, I didn't play any of the places like people know. What's it called? The Gray Wolf or something like that.
Yeah.
There's the Gray Eagle. That's it. Yeah. And then they got the Orange Peel stuff like that. I didn't play in those places. It was a place there called, it was some brewery place that has a venue inside of it. It was laid out really nice. The venue was in the back of the place, so you had to go. The front was their brewery restaurant, and the venue was back of this. The guys that own that, I think it's called Black Mountain Studios or something over there. The Avett brothers and all these people were tied in with that that whole place. And what I was going to say was about that place. Oh yeah, so after we finished, because they had us set up for rooms and everything, and I says, okay, so where we're staying at with the hotel? He says, oh, it's just upstairs. And I pushed the elevator and opened up, and they had this hospice kind of place up there, and they gave us a place up there, and it was fantastic. It was like, wow, what a unique place. We're here hanging out, great vibe, great place to eat, great venue in the back, and then we just went upstairs. So when we were done and got up the next day, then we packed our gear and was left. I said, well, okay, that was kind of good, convenient, and the whole street was really nice, walk around and everything.
Is it like in downtown?
Yes,
Nashville?
It's downtown, yeah. And I can't remember the name of the brewery place. It's been a while since I played there, but it was memorable, except for the name. I don't remember the name of the place. But, more of the places that always seem to be more unique that I've played have been places definitely outside California or have been overseas. They really try to make the places have an atmosphere where I feel like there's, especially in the South, a lot of places are more what I call beer hall oriented. It's just a big room. The bar's way over to the corner. And it's just concrete floor. Yeah. A stage that's painted black. With a PA system, and that's it, pretty much, and it's just waiting for the cattle to come in, the cattle to leave.
Oh man,
but the places that seem to me where people are coming there and they're hanging there, besides the music as well. Yeah, I tend to like those places a little bit more.
Oh yeah, well, and that harkens back almost to sort of that thing you're talking about like Knoxville in the '80s. It's like those types of venues that can generate their own scene.
Right.
There's nothing more depressing, certainly as a sort of an up and coming musician, than like trying to draw a bunch of people into a room to see, songs that it feels like people might not care about as much,
right.
But it's like if a place has a scene, you're just playing to these people and they can make their decisions for themselves whether they like it or not.
Well, remember that place? I don't know if it's still a venue here. It's been a while, but a place I've always enjoyed before too. To had an atmosphere too, like we're talking about with the Preservation Post, Patrick Sullivan's.
Okay.
And they had a venue up on the top floor, but the downstairs, it was in the old city, and it had a great bar in it, a great restaurant, great bar. It was a great hang place.
Yeah.
So you go in there, and a lot of the musicians would hang there even though they weren't playing.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I personally feel like that's what it's all about,
right?
In a very human way. Yeah. So let me ask about your band. This is again sidestepping. What do you look for in the people that you play with? Like, is there any sort of like experience, connection, chemistry? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
How long have you been playing with your band? It's like,
well, it's really crazy because that's going to be an odd thing to answer to. I've had people play with me that have come and gone,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But for the most part, Bob, my guitar player, and the drummer that's played with me forever, Brian O'Hanlon, we've played together in our alt rock bands in the early '80s. We played with each other, literally all our lives. So we grew up together, literally right out of our teens or our early 20s on up till now. So we know what our influences are. We know where we're coming from. So in other words, no matter like what we were talking about, the diversity earlier in the music, they know as soon as I'm playing more folky, they're going to go this route with what they're doing or whatever, and create what we are with our sound. And even after those bands, when I started Richie Owens in the Farm Bureau, that was over 27 years ago that we started the band. They know how to weave in and out. It doesn't matter if we're playing electric instruments and I'm playing the piano, or I'm playing electric guitar, or I'm playing the dobro or the mandolin or the banjo.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with those guys. Bob's a monster electric guitar player, lead guitar player, just phenomenal. But he could turn right around, and he's picking up the banjo or the lap steel and just, wears it out. We can go right into those modes. The same thing with the drummer. He's got a background and not just playing rock and alternative rock with us, but he's also, he's a great player that could get in there and give you that jazzy brush kind of style playing and all that, because he's a percussionist as well. Same thing with the the guy plays bass with us. He plays upright as well as electric.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we can do that, but we're also known each other all our lives.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with our bass player. He's he's a relative of mine, and we grew up together, so we know each other inside and out as far as our influences, how we play, how to interact.
Yeah.
So it's always a good hang. It's very comfortable hang. It's because it's family.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like when I saw you playing earlier today, it's like I definitely got that vibe, and it was beautiful. It was like very inviting.
Mm.
So we're actually about to be out of time here.
Okay.
I want to just ask again. Is it richieowens.com?
Yes.
For people to find you, RichieOwens.com.
That is correct. Yeah.
To find your music.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Of course, we're on all the platforms.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
It doesn't matter what platform you go out there on, the iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music,
and
YouTube.
And the
Richie Owens and the Farm Bureau.
Farm Bureau.
Yeah, you can find it that way too.
Amazing. Cool. Richie, it was awesome to sit and chat with you.
Well,
today.
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time so much. And I just want to say one more thank you to Raven Raven Records and Rarities, and Hutch and Howard of Keller Williams. Again, thank you guys so much for supporting the station. We could not do it without you. My name is Nick Horner. This has been Meet Music Knoxville, and we're going to do it again next month. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and chat with y'all soon.